Danny Savalas, let me turn back to you. How long typically would an appeal process take in a case like this?
Yeah, we can give you the ordinary appeal process for mere mortals who appeal to the appellate division, then up to the Supreme Court. But as with all things Trump, timelines seem to get compressed when it comes to appeals. But then again, at the same time, this is not a case that's dependent on an election, an upcoming election, like, say, Trump's immunity claim, which may need to be resolved in advance of, or in Trump's view, after an election. This is a case that doesn't really need to be fast-tracked when it comes to appeals. And of course, we're reading this as we go, but it may be the case that in terms of the business organizations, the cancellation of those business licenses, I was just talking about this with Catherine, may not be going forward. Instead, it's going to be referred to the independent monitor, retired Judge Barbara Jones. So the business licenses may not be subject to the death penalty, at least in the way that was contemplated or sought, in a sense, by the Attorney General in this case. You
use the term death penalty. I've heard it a lot with relation to this. Was this judgment, in effect, a death penalty if it's upheld at the appellate level?
It's a death penalty in a sense for people like Alan Weisselberg and other individuals who are banned permanently from doing any kind of business. And you asked that question earlier. I mean, you can imagine a situation where someone attempts to do business in a sly way, maybe with a straw man or through another person in some other way. That's the kind of thing that independent monitor Barbara Jones and others are going to be keeping their eyes on. It's not something that someone's going to be able to play games with. At least in terms of the business licenses, those appear to be, and I'm reading from this, the cancellation appears to be no longer necessary. So it remains to be seen. The restructuring and potential dissolution of the LLCs shall be subject to individual review by the court-appointed independent director of compliance in consultation with retired Judge Jones. So to be continued on that issue.
Okay, Danny, NBC's Von Hilliard has been covering the former president. He joins me now outside his Mar-a-Lago home. Is there any word coming from the former president's camp?
Right. Donald Trump is here at Mar-a-Lago right now, Lester, as this decision from Judge Engoron comes down. And one of his attorneys in the case, Alina Habba, who you'll, of course, recall, not only spoke on Donald Trump's behalf inside of the courtroom, but also frequently came out to the courthouse steps following the 3-month trial to address reporters. She just issued a statement here in the last 2 minutes in which she says, in part, quote, "Given the grave stakes, we trust that the appellate division will overturn this egregious verdict and end this relentless persecution against my client." Now, Alina Habba said just in the last 2 hours that she and the legal team for Donald Trump intend to appeal this within the next 30 days. Of course, this was an investigation from Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, that began almost 4 years ago, March of 2019. And you'll recall this last November, at the beginning of this trial, that Donald Trump himself testified for more than 3.5 hours, Lester. At one point, the judge overseeing this case told the former president that his quasi-tangential answers led him to make, quote, negative inferences from his responses. Donald Trump was furious inside of that courtroom that day, calling this a scam prosecution. And upon Donald Trump leaving the stand that day, I asked his attorney, Alina Habba, whether she would intend to direct her client to have better control of his answers inside of that courtroom for fear of an outcome like this from the judge. And she told me that she would not represent a client and ever direct him or her what not to say. And for Donald Trump, he has made it clear every time he has had the opportunity to speak inside of the courtroom that he will speak exactly what is on his mind. And ultimately here with the judge's decision, this will have far-reaching implications if it holds through this appeals process, not only on him in the corporation's future, but also that of his children. And of course, at a time in which he is trying to hold on and win this Republican nomination, this is going to present an opportunity for not only his Republican opponent, Nikki Haley, but also Democrat Joe Biden to hone in on the judge's findings that he and his company over the years have repeatedly engaged in financial fraud, Lester.
All right, Vaughn. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.